Hello, welcome to Local Edition. I'm Leslie Leyton. Would you be reluctant to call 911 for a friend if that friend had been using illegal drugs, for instance, or if the friend were a celebrity and you knew that your 911 call would be made public? Well, that is a big question being addressed by Assemblywoman Norma Torres. Thank you very much for being here, Norma.
Thank you for having me,
now,
Leslie.
You're an Assembly person, but you're also a former 911 operator, and you are introducing legislation that some are calling casually the Demi Moore law because of what has become public knowledge and her need for medical services.
Absolutely, and as a 911 dispatcher, still on a leave of absence for my job, I think it's incredibly important for people to feel comfortable and to know that 911 is there to help. And certainly what I hope to accomplish with this law is for people to not have to pause, to not have to think about, am I going to be divulging my most intimate moments online to be heard by the world?
What would the law say? What would it do?
The law specifically addresses medical records information. So under the same guidelines that hospitals and the clinics have to operate, they certainly cannot divulge specific information about one's health. 911 calls ought to be treated the same way.
So if this bill passed, then any 911 call would remain confidential until perhaps a court proceeding or something like that? Not
necessarily in its entirety, but it could be scrubbed of pertinent information that deals with one's medical condition. For example, eyes rolling, having a seizure, foaming at the mouth. Those types of detailed information should not be available for the world to hear.
Yeah, there is quite a gap between the confidentiality level that hospitals maintain and what we hear on these 911 calls.
Absolutely. It appears to be a free-for-all that anybody could walk in and get information, and it's different across the state. There are no standard guidelines, and that's another thing that this bill is trying to accomplish, is to develop some standard guidelines across the state on what information is a good model, good models to adopt.
Because there would be many circumstances where people would be reluctant to even call 911 because they wouldn't want to go on record as, divulging any information of personal nature of a friend.
Absolutely. Who wants to be the one to call in? If I'm involved in a traffic collision and you know that you're going to dial 911 for me, and your voice is going to be heard, across the wavelines. Are you going to do that, or are you going to pause and think about that? Maybe you want to, pick up that person and drive them to a hospital yourself. In a life-threatening situation, every second counts, and people should not have to think about medical 911 calls as a form of entertainment.
Yes, is it going to put the victim under further scrutiny, or even the person calling?
The person calling too. If you're not sure about that person's condition, could you be liable? For stating something that isn't correct.
Now, on the face of it, it seems reasonable. Is there any opposition to something like this?
I expect absolute opposition, yes.
You expect absolute
yes.
support, no opposition. What would someone oppose about this?
Absolutely. I think, there's a lot of shows, entertainment shows, publishers across the state, I think, will have issues of not being able to report on something that could sell a lot of papers.
Oh, they'll fight for the Freedom
yes.
of Information, the Public
Absolutely.
Records Act. So we'll just have to wait and see how this goes. Thank you very much for being here,
Thank you.
Norma Torres. And thank you for tuning in. Stay with us. More HLN coming up right after this.